Welcome to The Clear Perspective, everyone. It is Alison Lacusier here, and I am here today with a very special guest and one of my greatest mentors and one of the best leaders I know, Jimmy Kitson. Jimmy, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you for having me.
So Jimmy Kitson, I'm going to just tell you a little bit about him. He lives in Wake Forest with his amazing wife, Christy, and two incredible children, Connor and Kelsey. He loves to share stories of leadership and loves to learn from both the positive experiences and the opportunistic challenges life provides us. He is the Director of Sales and Leadership Development in Align Tech and Amazon's best-selling author of We've Got This, Leadership Principles Learned and Reinforced Through a 12-Month Battle with Cancer. So thank you so much for joining me today on The Clear Perspective. I know that this is going to be such a powerful and incredible interview. Knowing you over the last 3 years, you have completely changed my life, and many, many others in our industry and in other industries. And so I just want to kind of share with everyone how we got to know each other. Jimmy brought me on to work at Align Technology. So working to speak for Invisalign, he took a chance on me as somebody that was very new in the industry. And, you know, one of the funniest conversations I think we've had was when I was just getting started. You asked, can you put together, 40-minute lecture for orthodontists on Instagram? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. They're like, great. You're going to be speaking at the Ortho Summit in a few weeks. And it was one of the most one of the best moments that I've had in the industry so far. So Jimmy, I'd love to kind of hear how you got started in the role that you're in right now and how you really truly became the leader that you are.
Yeah. Well, I have to tell you, when we first brought you on board, it was one of the best decisions we've ever made. So we're so excited to have you as part of our speakers bureau and our faculty. So we're lucky to have you. I started out as a leader, probably when I was 25. And I'll tell you, I was an awful leader. The first job I had, I feel bad for the people who were working for me because I felt that I had been promoted as an individual contributor to a leader of others. And I still had that individual contributor mentality where I thought it was about me and only me. So most of the decisions were all about me and where I wanted to go as a leader. I always wanted to do the next thing or be promoted or be on a high potential list or something. And so I didn't succeed in my first leadership role. I was terrible. And then became an individual contributor again, got into medical sales and with a company called Smith & Nephew, and spent 15 years with them in a variety of different roles, from a sales rep to a regional manager to head of training to director of marketing. And then VP of sales was my final role there. And learned something very quickly, in some of the initial trainings that I got there, was that it was not about me. It was really making sure that I understood my team and manage each one of them individually. So I immersed myself in something that's called a DISC profile. I'm not sure if everybody on this call has been through a DISC or some type of personality profile. But I realized what my profile was, and it's sort of remained as a high I, high D. So definitely an extrovert, definitely love being around people, both in person and virtually, but I'd much rather be around people in the office, which is where I am today. And, COVID was tough for us. I mean, it was tough for those extroverts to connect, but we figured out a way to do that. But I learned it was about the DISC profile for me, but understanding where my team was, both in where their personality style, how they like to learn. So it wasn't about me and how I wanted to manage, it was how they wanted to be led. And so I remember a quote from Ross Perot that said, "You manage inventories, you lead people." And I've always had that quote sort of in the back of my mind. And so people just want to be led. They want to know that you have a vested interest in them. And then I had an amazing opportunity through one of my mentors, Michael, who brought me over to Align and started as working in the clinical education department and working with talented people like you, Allison, and other faculty members and speakers. I've never met a more passionate group of people around a product or a portfolio than the speakers and faculty members that we have. And then, in March of 2021, it was sort of when COVID was winding down. and was doing great. I was turning 50 that month of March, and just went in for a normal visit. I was having headaches, but I attributed those to the large number of online calls that I was having,
Yeah.
that we all were having at that time. And I was diagnosed with an amazingly rare form of brain cancer. And that they thought that the tumor was about the size of a fist. It was right on top of my head. And, that was on my birthday, which was March 18th. And then a month later, I was going through an 18-hour surgery where they removed my entire skull, removed the tumor as much as they could. And this is actually my lat muscle on top of my head that they removed from my back and put on top of my head. So it's amazing how medical technology is. But that was the first of 10 surgeries in an 11-month period. And that surgery lasted 18 hours. So, it was definitely, a tough thing to go through. We also followed that surgery up with 35 days of radiation. And I feel like I learned as much about being a leader from, going through these experiences and surrounding yourself with the right people who had the right mindset. And then being around my wife, who I'm constantly in awe of. I mean, she pretty much gave up everything. She works as a realtor. She's got a full-time job, and she pretty much dropped everything to take care of me full-time. So besides being an amazing wife, she turned into a caregiver for me.
Mhm.
And I'm happy to say that everything from the surgeries and the radiation that we went through worked. We've been in remission since October of last year. I still go in for MRIs every quarter. But I still deal with some of the effects of the amount of radiation that I received. So sometimes I get crazy tremors in my hands that I can't type. Now, the poor typer to begin with anyway. But, sometimes I just get these uncontrollable shakes, and, that'll last for probably the next 2 to 3 years. But I came back to work in March of this year and moved into this role where, I get to work with both leaders within our organization, aspiring leaders, as well as our early in career group, which are people who we hire both as sales associates as well as interns with our organization. So it's such a rewarding job. And besides being a great company to have great products to help transform smiles and change lives, the people here are even better. And that's what I couldn't wait to get back. I'm so excited to be back. I'm building up my stamina now to say I'm consistently working 40 plus hours a week, which I love. And so that's sort of been the leadership pathway, as well as sort of the things that we went through last year.
Mm. What a story. And you know, I started at Align, and then I remember, not hearing from you for a little while, and really wondering, is Jimmy okay? Like, where's Jimmy? And when we heard of the story and, everything that you had been through in the past 6 months, everyone was just so, sad and shocked and wanting you to come back and be, a part of the community because we missed you. Everyone notices like you not being there. And I remember when we were at the faculty meeting in the springtime this year, the standing ovation that you got as you got onto the stage, it was just everyone in the room felt the exact same way about you, because that's truly what a great leader does. Everyone just believes in you and wants to, be supportive of you, and just you could really feel that in the room at Align Technology at the faculty meeting. And so what do you think was the like what ability did you have to be so strong going through those hard times? Like, you wrote a book while you were going through, all of these, like the surgery, the unknown, the stress, and you wrote a book during that time. And so what allowed you to have that strength?
So I was going crazy. There's only so many reruns of Seinfeld or Friends that you can watch, during the week. So I was driving my wife nuts. I know I couldn't drive. I was on so many different medications. I think there was one point that I was taking like 13 different pills 3 times a day just to handle the pain I was dealing with my head, my back wound, and just trying to get the cancer out of me. So, I was just driven to get back. I feel like I owed Align something because they were so amazing to me throughout. We surrounded ourselves with the right group of people. I was asked when we were first diagnosed, do you, are you mad? Are you angry? And I said, no. And I'll tell you a defining moment in a story that I had, that I was over at UNC Chapel Hill and they asked me to go in for another MRI. And I hadn't really told anybody at Align or any of our friends about what was going on. We were just trying to figure out what the cancer was and sort of, how we were going to treat it. And it was a new place that I was going to in the hospital. And they said, walk down this hallway, turn left, turn right, and then you'll see it. And I remember it was still during a time of COVID where you had to wear a mask. The number of people, like my wife couldn't join me on the visit, so I had to go, alone. But I remember walking by the children's hospital, and I remember there was a room downstairs where you saw all these anxious parents. It was the parent waiting room for surgery. And at that time, only one parent could go up to the floor. They had to be masked. They literally had to drop their child off at the front desk, to be checked in. So they couldn't go back even to the pre-surgery room, or, there were so many restrictions. And I remember looking into that room and thinking that I don't have it that bad. I can't imagine my kids having to go through this. And I feel that the true warriors and the heroes are the parents who take care of their children throughout this. So never once did I say, why me? And the people who were sort of negative and saying this shouldn't have happened to you or whatever, we sort of, didn't really put them into our inner circle. So we had, definitely people that we were in the same mindset as we were, that we were going to kick this thing's tail from the get-go. We didn't allow negative or, things to, get into our world. I would also say that, the doctors told me I should have died twice last year, once from an infection in August and once from a seizure I had in December. And, we felt that those were just, challenges that we would get through. So I always tell my children that the most important muscle you have is the one between your ears. And that was the mindset. We were always trying to be positive. When we did get bad news, which was common, or I was going through pain levels, which was daily of 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10, we sort of used a quote that is military, where it says, embrace the suck. And so we knew we were going through that. We knew it was going to hurt, but me having a negative attitude isn't going to make it any better. So it was just the positivity of myself, my wife, our internal friends, Align employees. And it seemed like I would always get a text message when I needed it, when the pain was getting to the point where I needed to pop, some pain medications earlier. And so just the support we had from friends, faculty, family, Align, and others, even my previous company, was just great. So we surrounded ourselves with good people and who were like-minded, and we overcame it.
Yeah, you are an amazing person, and I'm just grateful that we have you today to kind of, pull out all of these things that, can inspire and enlighten other people that are going through anything in their life. This is just an inspiration to realize that we can be grateful even in the hardest times. We can be positive even in the hardest times. And so as a leader and as an, aspiring leader, I'm always trying to better my leadership skills. And you and I have talked about this in the time that we've known each other, and you've given me such great example of leadership and such great insight. And I know in your book, you talk all about the leadership principles learned and reinforced through that 12-month battle. But what would you say for anyone that's listening that wants to up-level their leadership skills or want to step into their leadership capacity would be some of your top principles that you will honor and teach even in today in your role at Align?
Yeah, so I would say that attitude and effort are always more important than skill. So that's the first thing that I realized early on. I always had that. I joke with people, I'm never going to be the smartest person in the room, but I'm going to smile when I walk past you, even if I don't know you. And then, I can outwork most people. So that's always been sort of my mentality. I grew up on a horse farm. And so, I've always thought that that's my mentality of trying to make sure that I was putting in an honest day's work, that I was treating everybody fairly. the thing I learned, Allison, the most, throughout the last year, and I think I had a good perspective on it prior to cancer, but it was definitely reinforced is that, tomorrow's is you can't take tomorrow for granted. I mean, me, I was healthy. I had the best, I'd lost weight. My blood work is great. I couldn't say I cut out meat and I still don't eat vegetables. But I think that what I learned the most last year was that I had to recognize and tell people what I thought about them and tell them that I loved them every day. And so one of the things that I've been very aware of is that I have to recognize 3 to 5 people per day for being a part of my life. And it's friends, it's my family, it's the people who work for me, the people I work alongside. It's the people who I lean on within our organization and outside, just to say, hey, thank you for being a part of my journey. Thank you for being a part of my life. And if you can't find 3 to 5 people per day to recognize, then you're not looking hard enough. And so one of the things that, I challenge the classes with is say, hey, send a text message to somebody who helped you get here. Just say, thank you for believing in me. Thank you for entrusting, me to do X, Y, or Z. And so that was the biggest thing that I think I learned from last year, was to tell people that I loved or that I respected what I thought about them. And I put a number on it of 3 to 5 a day. Most days I'm at 3. And it can be a phone call, it could be a text message, it could be, a Facebook post, whatever it is. That is like critical to me. And then it also reinforced something that I have lived by in my leadership career. The first thing that I learned in my first probably 4 to 5 years, which I still use to this day, is an E plus R equals O sort of formula. And it's the events that happen to you, and then how you react to them will determine your outcome. So there's events that we both control and we don't control. How do I react to that? Do I react positively? And then the outcome will be determined by that formula of E plus R equals O. So that was definitely reinforced, especially through the daily struggles that we had. And then something I learned about 5 years ago, listening to a sports podcast, was to be focused on purpose and process. So why you do what you do, and then what are the processes that you put in place. I'm a very big routine person. I wake up at the same time every morning. My wife will tell you that it's crazy. I haven't set an alarm in the 22 years we've been married. So if I need to wake up at 3, I wake up at 3. If I need to wake up at 6, I wake up at 6. It's probably not good for my sleep. And I'm diagnosed with sleep apnea, but that's a whole other conversation. But, I think that the being routine about the things you do, being intentional about the things you do, and being focused on the purpose and process versus being focused on the outcome. If you focus on those first 2 things, typically the outcomes are going to be favorable, and sometimes they're not. And, we have this, you and I were talking earlier about this new generation that's entered the workforce, and, they're so hard on themselves, and, they can do 20 tasks in a day. 19 of them are phenomenal and 1 is not. And at the end of the day, they're down on themselves. They're hard on themselves, and all they're focusing on is that one thing. It's up to us as leaders to put that in perspective. And, so not focus on the outcome, but focus on the development and the process of getting you to where you want to be. So that's been a big thing for us that we've tried to implement within my new role. And we're doing a good job of it, but we can be doing better. They're so hard on themselves, and they're great. The people we hire are so talented. We're so lucky to have them. So it's a good group that we have in.
Mm-hmm. I love it. I love the like formulas that we can remember and the things that we can put in place. And it's absolutely true. There's so many things that we don't have control over, but we can control the way that we show up to it and how we respond and react to it. And so what have you seen, like in your leadership roles in the companies that you've been in? How have you seen really great leadership transform an organization? Like, what is the potential for great leadership?
Yeah, so I would say that I think it's changed drastically since COVID has hit. I would say that, typically people want to see you invest in their development. And typically companies and organizations, and I was guilty of this, as a director of training. I shouldn't say guilty of it, but it's something that we enforced, that we would do sort of this one size fit all approach to leadership and development. And I think, as Netflix has evolved, and you could watch a TV show that's, talking about, Billions, I think is a TV show that like on Showtime. And then when I'm finished watching the show Billions, I'll get an email or something that says, hey, you watched Billions. Here's some other shows that you may be interested in.
Mm-hmm.
So that sort of Netflix model sort of started, 10 or 15 years ago. And I'd say since COVID, when we were all working at home, I'd say that leadership and development has transformed into a more personalized experience. So while the off the shelf, sort of general training still, has a place, and we'll never say it doesn't have a place, I think leaders today need to create personalized pathways where it's, okay, what works for Jimmy? What are my areas of opportunity? What are my strengths? And then you pick 2 to 3 things to work on over a 90-day period. And then you show that progression. So leadership and development to me has become very personalized over the course of the last 3 years. And it's not just event driven. It's, okay, I have an event that I work on, or I do, or I participate in. And then what are the 2 to 3 things that I need to work on from that event? If we attend a training class, and I say this to almost every class, said it to a group that I taught to last week, if you invest 2 days of your time to come in here and learn about something, if it's not changing a habit or a behavior on Monday, then this was a wasted 2 days. And so I challenged all of them to come up with the 2 to 3 things that they're going to work on in the next 90 days, and then check in with us, put something in your calendar and be intentional about it, saying, hey, I'm going to work on these things. If we need to create a development program with you, we'll do something personalized for you. But it just goes to that personalization of the experience and the journey. What works for me may not work for you because of where we're at in our careers. I mean, I'm social media illiterate. I know you're an expert in that. So typically when I need help with that, I'm ringing you up and saying, Allison, I need help here. And think about our first experience, a couple of years ago. I identified that as a gap that I thought we had, and you came in and crushed it at that summit meeting. So I think it's just knowing what your strengths are, know what your developmental opportunities are. And I'd also say that I find the best teams are a combination of different personality styles. I'm a high I, high D. If we hired a team directly like me, exactly like me, they'll probably do okay, but there's going to be some challenges there. I always loved having different personality styles on my team. Now, I wouldn't say, I'd hire, a person just based only on that. They had to be a good fit for us, and it had to be a good fit for them to join our organization. But I always like to have a team of different backgrounds. So, you think about, a football draft, American football draft. You don't draft, 12 quarterbacks. You have to draft, by position, understanding, what they're good at and what they need help on. But a team of 12 quarterbacks is not going to win an American football game.
Yeah.
So I use
I love that analogy. That's such a good analogy. And so if you were to hire kind of like your football team, and you felt like you had a great team, and you felt like one of the players needed support coaching, they just weren't quite like hitting the mark. Do you believe that every person is coachable and can kind of rise to that occasion? Or do you feel like sometimes it's just not maybe the right fit? Like, how do you decide if somebody's not performing inside of an organization? How do you make that decision whether we push harder to educate or, lead, or they're just not the right fit for the organization?
Yeah, so it's something that you figure out. I think right now we're sort of in a balanced world where, we still need to lead with empathy. However, I think that, over the course of the last couple of years, that we need to also lead with empathy while holding people accountable to what we're asking them to do. So we're sort of, going through a shift of, empathy and then performance and accountability. And you want to have that pendulum sort of even. And so it's things that we're actually working on now. I'm actually, around performance management and I'm actually working with another great partner internally to, talk about culture and environment, but also say,
Mhm.
hey, we still need to be accountable to whatever your job is. And if you really need to listen. We did a listening skills course a couple of weeks ago, which was fantastic. And I think the ability to listen to understand is something that is a skill set that every manager should have versus listening to respond. And what I
Mhm.
see a lot of new managers do who are early in their career and we're trying to develop is that they feel they have to respond to everything immediately. And it's okay to say, you know what, let me get back to you, or let me make sure I understand where you're coming from. So it's a balance of both culture or environment, and then the performance side of it, and then effectively listening to what the person's going through. They might be not performing as well as could be, but they might be going through a personal struggle. They might be
Mhm.
having a hard time, it's something that we don't know about. So I think first you have to ask some questions, and
Mhm.
just dig in and say, hey, I've noticed over the last couple months that your reports have been late, or that you just don't seem the same self. Is there anything that's going on and I need to help you with? Is there any resources that I can provide for you if there's a struggle? So I think
Mhm.
so many times leaders try to diagnose, and I think first thing they need to do is listen and ask the right questions.
Yeah, that's so valuable. That's so valuable, and I see it as I'm coaching practices too. Managers and owners sometimes will dive in with the solution or dive in with the assumption when that's completely not it's not what's happening. So, I mean, wow, these are leadership principles. I think I'm going to watch this interview again and take notes on. I've been taking notes a little bit here and there because it's so valuable.
Yeah.
And so I want to switch gears just a little bit. What does the future hold for you? What are you most excited to be developing and creating and working on right now?
I'm most excited about seeing this group that we are influencing now who are early in career. And I said to them probably in an email like a month ago that, they're going to be our leaders 5 years from now. So as we build out 1 to 3 to 5 year strategies, which I know all organizations or businesses typically do, I told them and saying, hey, even though you're so early in career right now, you're going to be the ones who influence this change in 3 to 5 years. You're going to be the ones leading it. And it sort of took them by surprise. I mean, right now they're just trying to get through the week of role plays and presentations just to get comfortable in understanding, our business and how to be a good value add to our customers. And
Mhm.
so I told them, hey, you're going to be our leaders in 3 to 5 years. Think about what you were doing 3 to 5 years ago. They were just starting college, or,
Mhm.
maybe they were, still in high school. So the thing I'm most excited about is seeing the talented individuals who want to make an immediate impact in developing others. That's what I see with this group. They work so well as a team. And I'm just excited to know that our company is going to be in great hands with the people who we are hiring, who we are assessing to be leaders, and then making sure that we set them up for success and not failure,
Mhm.
and creating that customized individual pathway. I know will make them successful because they're so open to coaching. They want to
Yeah.
get better, and they want to get better like tomorrow. And while I've told
Yeah.
them, I'm like, hey, let's focus on 1% better per day, or let's focus on the next week. Let's not jump to 3 years ahead, but know that 3 to 5 years from now, you're going to be the one who's hiring this group. You're going to be the one who is making decisions in a boardroom like I'm sitting at today. Sort of
Mhm.
freaks them out a little bit. I mean,
Yeah.
they're literally just trying to get through, the basics of a day. And for many of them, it's their first corporate job. And I also am so impressed with our management team and our leadership team here at our organization that they are so passionate about developing people. I mean, providing us the resources to do these, workshops and these classes. I mean, how lucky are we? I mean, I talked to friends of mine who have cut off all the resources to a lot of
Mhm.
developmental programs. And one of the things I joke is that there's never a good time for training. There's always a holiday, or hey, the business needs, or the workshop that I have to go to. Align, is so committed to developing our people that
Mhm.
it's very humbling to work for an organization like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know I'm heading to the Raleigh headquarters in a few weeks. I'm so excited to be even in just that environment. It
Yeah.
feels like such fresh energy, and it's such an exciting place to be and get to, feel like you're impacting change there. It's a pretty amazing place. And so I could ask you questions for the next 3 hours, and I am really so grateful for your time. And so any final thing you want to kind of share on the thoughts of leadership? I was curious to know about any of the stories that you have around opportunistic challenges, in the sense of like your leadership world that you've gone through. If you have any of those that you'd want to share.
I'd say be intentional with your own personal development. And I think that is key. So one of the things I have everybody who works for me do is two things. One, they have to write down their goals. There's something to be said for goals that are written in your own penmanship versus putting something in a Word document or a Workday document in Garamond 12 font. So I make everybody write down what their personal goals are for the year, and they sort of have to keep it visible in their home, in the office, wherever it is. So that's a sort of prerequisite for me. But then you have to take, the personal development, and like while I say that, we do a lot of things to help develop our people, you have to do something personally too. So everybody who works for me needs to schedule at minimum 30 minutes per week on their own personal development. And it doesn't have to be how am I going to be a more successful leader or an employee for our company. It could be how am I a better wife or partner or husband? How can I be a better father? And what are the books or resources that I can read to help me be a better human? And
Hmm.
that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to create better humans. And we hope that they're with Align for as long as they want to be here for, and they're doing a great job. But I mean, my legacy, I've said this in the book, it's quoted in the book, my legacy isn't about the things I've left behind. My legacy is going to be on the impact I've had on the people who have been around. And I say that all the time. I want to be known as a fair leader, somebody who pushed them to do things that maybe they didn't know they could accomplish. So being intentional with that 30 minutes per week. For years, mine has been scheduled for every Friday morning from 7:30 to 8 o'clock Eastern. If I get a call, I don't take it. If I
Hmm.
have another meeting that comes up, which occasionally happens, I reschedule my personal development meeting for some other time. Because if you don't do that, you can say, oh, I'm going to spend 30 minutes a week, and before you know it, it's Friday at 4:30 and you haven't done anything. So
Hmm.
schedule 30 minutes with your most important customer, which is you, outside of what you're doing, just from what the company resources provide. So those are like two things that I think are so critical for me, and important for me as we, build out these pathways of leaders wherever they're at in their journey.
So inspiring, so inspiring. And I love that you said we are building better humans. One of the kind of hashtags or slogans that I have at Clear Coaching is hashtags humans first, because at the end of all of this, we are human beings first, we're professionals second. And anytime we're facing any challenges or growth, the better human we are, the better we're going to be at anything we're going through.
Yep.
And so I just want to honor you today and thank you today for all of your wisdom, all of your leadership, all of your inspiration for me and so many others, not only at Align, but across the entire dental industry, across the entire world. And you're just a true, true leader, one of the best leaders I've ever met. And so thank you for being here today and sharing this wisdom. And I hope everyone, enjoyed this wisdom. Listen to it again and go and write some notes. Take this back to your practice, take this back to your work culture or your family. And definitely go and onto Amazon and get the book. We've Got This: Leadership Principles Learned and Reinforced Through a 12-Month Battle with Cancer, because it is full of so much amazing stories and just a ton of inspiration and leadership tactics that I think we all need to hear. So thank you so much, Jimmy.
Thank you so much, Allison. I appreciate you.